What if I told you that the price of your next car could shoot up thousands of dollars overnight? Not because of inflation, not because of greedy dealerships, but because of tariffs imposed by Trump. People are already panicking, predicting a $30,000 car could soon cost $50,000. And even routine repairs like a $200 brake job might soar to $2,000. But the big question is this hype or is it reality? So stick with me because today we're diving deep into how Trump's new tariffs are shaking up the auto industry, the surprising winners and losers, and what it means for your wallet. So just before we take a deep dive, as always, it's imperative you hit that like button and subscribe so that you get notified the minute we produce another game-changing video that affects your car choices. I promise you'll appreciate it. So buckle up and let's plunge straight in, my fellow drivers. So, when Trump announced tariffs on foreign-built cars and auto parts, headlines exploded overnight. Social media lit up with memes of pre-tariff pricing versus post-tariff pricing, showing cars jumping up in price by thousands of dollars. Dealers quickly jumped on the hysteria, marking up cars under the guise of buy now before prices explode. But thankfully, my fellow Americans weren't fooled. Demand just wasn't there. Shoppers walked away, and those inflated prices, well, they just tumbled back to earth. Now, here's the reality. Since tariffs officially took effect, the average increase in new vehicle prices has been just, wait for this, 1.26%. Now, that's lower than the usual annual climb in sticker prices. In other words, well, let's be honest, tariffs didn't set the new car market on fire, but here's the twist. Where Americans lost out wasn't on new car prices, but somewhere else entirely. So don't click away because this is where it gets really interesting. See, the whole point of tariffs was to give American manufacturers a competitive edge, but instead of doubling down on affordable cars for everyday families, well, US automakers leaned even harder into their favorite cash cows. We're talking trucks, SUVs, and luxury trims. Now, remember when you could afford a brand new car for under $10,000? Well, today, the cheapest economy cars start at around $22,000. And guess what? The last holdouts, like the Mitsubishi Mirage, well, they're not even American made. So while overseas companies trim their margins to absorb tariffs, well, Detroit's big players push prices higher, they cut out affordable options, and they walked away with a huge slice of the market. Now, that opened the door wide for Asian and European brands to capture those budget-minded buyers. So instead of protecting the little guy, tariffs may have just exposed how out of touch US car makers really are. Now, let's shift gears for a minute. For anyone who's ever had to replace a fender or brake pads or a used engine, you absolutely know this market has been brutal since the pandemic. Prices have skyrocketed. A $110 fender shot up to $300. Brake pads doubled. Engines once bought for $600, well, they suddenly sold for over $2,000. And many feared that tariffs would only make this worse. But here's the shocker. It didn't. In fact, prices for many parts actually came down. Why? Well, because overseas manufacturers panicked. They were afraid of losing American customers, so they slashed prices, they offered huge bulk discounts, and they flooded wholesalers with deals to lock in the future orders. So imagine this. You order 1 million brake pads, and not only do you beat the tariffs, but you get them cheaper per unit than before. Suddenly, shelves were stocked again, and shortages became less common. Tariffs didn't crush parts suppliers, they made them fight harder for your dollar. So you'd think luxury and exotic parts would get hammered the hardest. After all, what's a tariff on a Rolls-Royce body kit or a carbon fiber wing? But once again, the market adapted. Vendors in Europe and Ukraine cut prices to keep their US buyers happy. And in China, many of the low quality shops shut down, leaving only the premium suppliers left standing. Now, here's a story that perfectly illustrates it. One supplier in China, a father-son operation specializing in carbon fiber kits, decided to cut out middlemen entirely. Excuse me. Now, before a kit might pass through 4 or 5 brokers before reaching US buyers, that would double or even triple the price. So with tariffs looming, well, guess what? They went direct. They improved quality and they built stronger relationships with their customers. Results? Their sales didn't collapse, they actually skyrocketed. The irony? Well, tariffs that were meant to punish China actually wiped out shady middlemen, forcing higher quality suppliers to the very top. So here's the bottom line. New cars? Well, prices ticked up, but nowhere near the doomsday predictions. Parts? Well, in many cases, they got cheaper thanks to aggressive supplier deals. High-end imports? Well, the good survived and the bad vanished. So are tariffs going to bankrupt the average American car buyer, you may ask? Well, the answer is not even close. The real threat isn't tariffs. Surprisingly, it's the greed of American automakers abandoning affordable vehicles. See, tariffs didn't skyrocket prices, but they did expose just how broken the US car market already is. So I guess the big question is, what should you do? Well, first of all, whatever you do, do not panic buy. The numbers show tariffs alone won't double the cost of your next car. Second, shop globally. Non-US manufacturers are working overtime to keep cars affordable, even eating the tariff costs themselves. Third, if you happen to be in the repair game, build relationships with part wholesalers now. Bulk discounts and direct deals can literally save you thousands of dollars. So here's a teaser. Coming up in a future video, I'll reveal which US car makers are already losing massive market share because of their refusal to build budget cars. Trust me, you'll want to see which brands might not even survive the next decade. So, are car prices about to skyrocket due to Trump's tariffs? The simple answer is no. But the story behind it is far more important. It's about how global suppliers adapted, how US automakers failed the middle class, and how consumers like you, well, you can play the system to your advantage. So as always, if you found this breakdown helpful, smash the like button, drop a comment below with your thoughts on tariffs, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into the hidden truths of the car industry. Have a great day, my fellow drivers, and I'll see you guys on the next one.